Bula, AJ Beaver here from Fiji, and I cannot wait to share this week's message with you. If you are in a place where you are seeking vision or a more direct connection to God, we are going to be talking about what the stairway to heaven means tonight. And oh my gosh, I can't tell you, this place feels like heaven to me. I'm coming to you, I have absolutely no makeup on. I'm sitting on our deck overlooking this magnificent view in Fiji, and I cannot feel more one and more present with God and with nature and with spirit and with really heaven. If heaven touched earth, I believe it would be here as a fish just jumped out of the water. I mean, it is divine. So there's a reason why I feel we're being called to share it from here. And for those of you who don't know, for a quick background, my husband and I have been here for the last week or so, and we've been at the Tony Robbins Life and Wealth Mastery event. And so during those 7 days, we were on a cleanse, which means we had no sugar, we had no alcohol, we had no meat, we ate nothing but live foods and drank water. And I have never felt more cleansed and rejuvenated and connected to my body and my energy. And that's really what the week is all about. And that's the first part of the week, is life mastery. And then the second part of the week is all about wealth mastery. And what does it mean to be wealthy? What does it mean to have prosperity and abundance? And we learned some amazing things that I'm going to bring into today's message. So I'm going to bring in what came in from Wealth Mastery and the vision that I had while I was here when these words came to me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in to this week's message. And the message is this: vision cannot be found in the temporal, for what is of earth is destined to pass away. Only the Lord knows the plans for you, to give you hope and a future. Therefore, seek the ladder to heaven found within, where the view from the top becomes your passion and purpose, rooted in true prosperity and abundance. Seek, and you shall find. Powerful words. So let's go deeper into this message, because here's how it came in. I was laying in bed and I was just sat up, and I heard the words of this message. And oftentimes when I get messages, I don't have a clear understanding of what things mean or why they came in. But at the same time, I received a vision of this ladder, and I heard the words Jacob's ladder. And I didn't know what that meant, but I had a recollection from Sunday school of remembering Jacob's ladder. And so I did a little Google research, and I was taken to the Bible, which in Genesis 28:14 is a story of Jacob's ladder. So I'm going to do my best to give you the short version, okay? Basically, what happened in the story is that Isaac, who had received the blessing, as we know in the Old Testament, one person receives the blessing and passes it down to the next generation. And that's how the Old Testament was set up. Only one person could receive the blessing, have the relationship with God, until it got to the New Testament, where Christ made the ultimate sacrifice, and now everyone has that opportunity, right, to be able to have a relationship with God. And that's the beauty of this. But what I believe about the Old Testament is that these stories are still alive. They're still a part of how we can have direct communication with God. So this story about Jacob's ladder, I want you to listen to the pearls that are found in the story. So basically, Isaac, who had the blessing, was getting ready to pass the blessing down to his sons. And to his son, specifically Esau, who was the oldest, who was to receive the birthright and the blessing of the relationship with God. But in this, a couple of things happened. Number one, there was another son named Jacob. And Isaac's wife basically had this premonition that it wasn't Esau who was supposed to receive the blessing, but it was actually Jacob. But she knew her husband would never do that, right? So they played a trick on him. And they basically deceived him into believing that Jacob was Esau. When Esau was off, I don't even know what he was doing, farming or doing something, Jacob was actually receiving the blessing of Isaac. And so it was set up, this is exactly the way it was supposed to happen. But when Esau came back and saw that Jacob was the one who had received the blessing, he was irate. And Isaac was beside himself. And there was so much torment. And so Esau threatened to kill Jacob. And Jacob takes off for the hills. And he's going to be heading to Harlan or something like that, where he's supposed to be going. So you can only imagine he's left his homeland. He doesn't have a relationship with God. He has received this blessing, doesn't even know what it means, and he's running for his life. So in Genesis 28:14, he then comes to a space where he's going to lay down. And as he grabs the stone and he lays down on the hard floor, he closes his eyes and he has this dream about a ladder. And this ladder comes from heaven and it is touching the earth. So God gives him this dream, and there are words in this promise to him that he is going to fulfill his promises and his, create the abundance of descendants and the Messiah and all these different things in the dream. And so Jacob at that moment believes that he has received the blessing. He has experienced this internal vision, right? And then he goes on and he passes that blessing on to his son, and the story continues. But how does this idea of Jacob's ladder, which is interesting that they call it Jacob's ladder because he's the one that received it. So this is your ladder. This is my ladder. Because later on, Christ actually goes to define himself as the ladder, as the medium between heaven and earth. And Christ lives within us. The Christ consciousness is within all of us if we believe that and receive that. So, how does your ladder play into your life regarding your vision, your purpose, your passion? And what came to me is this vision that God is at the top. God has the 30,000 foot view of your life. He can see everything. He can see the blessings that he wants to bestow, which if the blessings, sorry, my flower's falling out. If the blessings were not to be received from heaven, there wouldn't be a ladder. There wouldn't be a way to communicate heaven and earth, right? I think there's a significance in the fact that we are to receive these abundant blessings in our lives. So how do we connect to God's vision? That's what this ladder is. And this is where the wealth mastery teaching came in. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to take a little bit longer than I normally do, and I'm going to share with you the teaching from Wealth Mastery and Tony Robbins. If you can see this is the pyramid of wealth. Okay, and what's interesting about this pyramid, kind of looks like a ladder, doesn't it? And I had full body chills when I saw this picture and we started going deeper into this teaching. And I knew, man, this has to do with the message this week. So let me share this with you. Because Tony Robbins taught us that wealth isn't something that we're trying to create or to achieve. Wealth is something that we already have. And when we recognize that and we receive that and we honor that wealth that is within us, everything else is just gold added to the treasure chest, okay? And there's a pyramid, there's a ladder to what this mastery of wealth is in our lives. So that's what I'm going to jump into right now. And it starts at the bottom with our physical body, which is the reason we took 7 days to cleanse our system, to learn about nutrient-rich foods, to learn about drinking water, to learn about eliminating the toxins out of our body and how our food sources are contaminated, and just all kinds of different things. And how do we take care of our physical body so that we can preserve our energy for what is most important in our lives. And our physical body is where we have to start with the mastery of wealth. Okay? It's number one. Moving up the ladder, we come to emotions and meaning. So we all, as humanity, we all came in with a physical body, and we all get to experience the human emotions. In some ways, I believe we share them because we all experience them on some level, right? And so there's no judgment around it, but it's the meaning that we attach to it that gives life to the emotion in our bodies. And Tony Robbins is a big believer and teacher in the human potential and how it is that we can recreate our stories, to recreate meaning, to tune into different emotions within the body, emotions of certainty, emotions of our personal power, right? And the beauty about mastering our emotions and meaning is that we all have that experience as humanity. And when we choose to master that within ourselves, we move up the ladder. And this all has to do around passion, purpose, and vision. I'm getting there. The next is relationships. We're all in relationships with one another. And what are your relationships? How are you serving your relationships? How are you receiving within your relationships? Your relationship with yourself, your relationships with others, and your relationship to God. We are all given relationships that we're stewards of, and we are to master that area of our lives if we are to really experience true wealth. Okay, so it starts with the body, the emotions, and the meaning, then the relationships, and next is time. We are all given the same amount of time. Nobody has more or less. We all take that time and we utilize that time, and we're stewards of that time in different ways. And that's part of mastering this thing called wealth that we all are capable of feeling. Then, after that is number 5, and it's work, career, mission. And oftentimes, this is the journey of our lives. First, it might be a job. Then it becomes a career where we make maybe a little bit more money, or we have a little bit more responsibility, or we've committed more to doing certain work in our lives, right? Eventually, that becomes a mission. We're doing it for something greater. And what is your mission? Tony Robbins really got us clear with what is your mission? What are you here to serve with your gifts and talents, stepping into your greatest self? This is moving up the ladder. And number 6, almost to the top, is finances. So first career, then you have finances that you're a steward of. So this whole idea around money is just energy. It's an exchange. So when we're in our gifts and talents, and we've mastered our relationships and our body, then as we're giving, money is what we're receiving in our career, our work, our mission. And the more we give, the more we receive. And finances are the area that we can control and master and feel our wealth, because all of us receive money, and then we have choices with what we do with that money. And when we can master that area of our lives, that is true wealth, right? Prosperity and abundance, until we get to the top, which is celebrate and contribute, a spiritual sense of identity. And that, my friends, is the 7 levels of mastery of wealth. And we went deep into those this week. But what I found very interesting as it applies to this message is that what we can pray for, and what you may be praying for right now in your own life, looking for a vision as to your mission, your passion and purpose in life, or maybe you're already aware of it, if you seek that and you ask for that on a spiritual sense, you will find that. That is the promise that we can all cling to. It's a spiritual promise that we're all given. There's no price tag with that. And that top, that view from the top of celebrating and contributing to others, how much can we give? What charities are we going to open up? How are we going to serve in our world with our gifts and our talents and our finances and our relationships and our health and our emotions and our bodies? That is the ladder. That is the experience of God here living through us in our gifts and talents on earth. Isn't that beautiful? So with those two things, with the pyramid of mastery of wealth that I just shared with you, knowing that we are all wealthy because we all have control over those areas of our life, and then asking for the greater vision this week, and then the beautiful story of Jacob and Jacob's ladder, I want you to listen to this message one more time, and then I'm going to turn this around so you can take in this beautiful view that I'm looking at right now and feel the wealth. Vision cannot be found in the temporal, for what is of earth is destined to pass away. Only the Lord knows the plans for you to give you hope and a future. Therefore, seek the ladder to heaven found within, where the view from the top becomes your passion and purpose, rooted in true prosperity and abundance. Seek, and you shall find. May this message encourage and inspire you, and I'm going to turn this around so you can see this gorgeous view off of our deck. We're outside. You can see the oceans pass through. The sun was breaking through just a moment ago. Fish are out there. It's raining. See down into that water. Isn't that beautiful? I believe if heaven had touched any part of earth, it has touched Fiji, and I have experienced that, and I have had so much joy sharing that with you. So thank you for tuning in today. I pray this message has encouraged and inspired you, and if so, please share it with someone you love, and I look forward to sharing our next Thursday night thought together.